Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everyone. My name is Esma. I'm a member of Canadian Uyghur community, and I'm one of the thousands of ordinary Uyghur people who are trying to raise awareness about the issue in East Turkestan to the world. A couple of days ago, I met a Muslim family. After I introduced myself, I asked if they heard about concentration camps in China. And the father's reply was, yes, I did. Then he explained to his family about how the Chinese government is arresting its Muslim citizens and sending them to the far west part of China in the desert, where it's brutally cold and not environmentally suitable for living, like a living being. And the father explained that the Chinese government want to eliminate the Uyghur population. Then he turned to me and asked me if he was right. I apologized and said, not entirely. That brutally cold place you mentioned is actually the most beautiful place on earth, is Turkestan. Although he's not wrong that Chinese government is doing far worse than leaving people in the cold desert, not a lot of people know what exactly is happening to the people of East Turkestan. Today, I'm standing here to tell you what exactly is happening to the people of East Turkestan, and in what situation they are living, what this situation today is leading up to, and if it's not stopped. I would like to begin with answering these questions. Who are Uyghurs? And what is happening to them? Uyghurs are Turkic-speaking people, mainly living in East Turkestan, also known as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region by Chinese. They are mostly Sunni Muslims, and according to the Chinese official statistics, there are about 11.3 million that are living in East Turkestan, and about 1 million are living abroad. But according to the statistics of Uyghur activists, there are about 18 million Uyghurs living in East Turkestan. People always refer to Uyghur people as Chinese Muslims. You can see in the picture who are Chinese Muslims actually. That is not correct, because the Chinese Muslims are Muslims with ethnic Han Chinese background. And the Chinese government have used this as propaganda tool to show the world how well the Chinese Muslims are doing, to hide their oppression against Uyghurs. The fact is, China now is demolishing mosques of Chinese Muslims and they're restricting their religious practices as well. Now, let's talk about East Turkestan. East Turkestan, also known as Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of China, lies in the very heart of Asia. Situated along the fabled ancient Silk Road, it has been a prominent center of commerce for more than 2,000 years. It's the homeland of the Turkic-speaking Uyghurs and other Central Asian people, such as Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, Uzbeks, Tatars, and Tajiks. The land of East Turkestan gave birth to many great civilizations, and at various points of history, it has been a cradle of scholars, cultures, and power. The current territorial size of the East Turkestan is 1.82 million square kilometers, which is 1/6 of current Chinese territory. East Turkestan has a rich history and a diverse geography. It has grand deserts, magnificent mountains, beautiful rivers, grasslands, and forests. It's very rich in all types of natural resources. For example, it has 150 billion barrel in oil reserve, 23 billion cubic meters of natural gas in Tarim Basin alone. 40% of China's coal and one of the world's largest gold deposits. The independent Uyghur kingdom in East Turkestan, the Sayyid kingdom, or also known as Yarkent kingdom, was invaded by Manchu rulers of China in 1759. Manchus invaded the East Turkestan again in 1876 after 8 years of bloody war. The Manchu Empire formally annexed East Turkestan into its territories and renamed it Xinjiang, which means new territory, on November 18, 1884. The Uyghurs staged numerous uprisings against Chinese rule, and twice, first in 1933 and second in 1944, succeeded in setting up an independent East Turkestan Republic. In October 1949, the People's Liberation Army troops marched into East Turkestan, effectively ending the East Turkestan Republic. The Chinese communists organized Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in the territory of East Turkestan in 1955. What is happening to Uyghurs? A lot of people think the oppression of Chinese government only started recently. Actually, since communist Chinese government occupied the East Turkestan in 1949 and established Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in 1955, the Uyghur people were systematically oppressed by Chinese government. At first, the Chinese government labeled Uyghurs as pan-Turkism, pan-Islamic, and local nationalists. Then labeled Uyghur and the Turkic people as separatists and the religious extremists. After 2001, the 9/11, the Chinese government labeled Uyghur and the Turkic people as three evils: terrorists, separatists, and the religious extremists. Starting 2017, 3 million Uyghur and other people of Turkic nation were locked up in Chinese concentration camps in East Turkestan, Xinjiang by Chinese. By the end of December 2018, there were 87 such camps were built in East Turkestan, sending and receiving money to and from abroad, taking children to concentration camp-style orphanage while the parents are in concentration camps or jails, even if they have other family members, giving away children to Chinese families for adoption without parents' knowledge, forcing Muslims to consume pork, alcohol, to show loyalty to the Communist Party. What's happening in those concentration camps? According to the witnesses who escaped the concentration camps and the information from other sources such as some government officials, policies, guards, and etc., these are what is happening in those camps. Uyghur people who are locked up in the concentration camps are prone to unimaginably brutal torture, both physically and mentally. Rape. Several former detainees have stated that Chinese officials choose the female detainees they like and force them to do whatever they want, especially for fulfilling their sexual desire. And it's even reported that Chinese officials use sexual abuse as torture method against male detainees as well. Starvation, sleep deprivation, forced to be lab testers. It's reported that Chinese officials use detainees for testing unknown drugs, even for testing their newly invented chemical and biological weapons, and organ donors without consent, among others. According to many witnesses, we believe that at least 4% of the detainees die in these concentration camps every month due to immense torture, malnutrition, and a lack of medical treatment. That makes up to 4,000 people each and every day. And their bodies are not returned to their families. They just simply disappear. These are what's happening in those concentration camps. I believe other speakers will talk about Uyghur issue from different perspectives, and we'll talk about our expectations from international community and our brothers and sisters. So I will stop my speech here. Thank you everyone for attending here.